Imagine waking up one day in the bed you worked so hard to afford, in the home you meticulously furnished, and instead of the warm glow of achievement, you are met with a chilling, silent void. The trophies on the shelf are just polished metal and wood. The titles on your resume are just words on a page. The bank statement is just a numerical abstraction. And the question, quiet at first but then deafening, begins to echo in the hollows of your chest. Is this it? You followed the map? Exactly. You checked every box, climbed every rung, swallowed every bitter pill of delayed gratification because you were promised a destination called arrival, a place of rest, of fulfillment, of having made it. But you are here, and you feel nothing. Or worse, you feel a new, more insidious kind of anxiety. Not the burning drive of ambition, but the cold dread of meaninglessness. The finish line you sprinted towards for decades has vanished the moment you crossed it, replaced instantly by a new, more distant horizon. The race never ends, the track just gets longer. This isn't a minor disappointment, it's a fundamental betrayal of a core promise that has been whispered to us since childhood. Do this, achieve that, acquire this, and you will be happy. You will be worthy. You will be safe. We are born into a world that has already written the recipe for a significant life, and we spend our days frantically gathering the ingredients: prestige, power, possessions. We are running a race we never consciously chose to enter, on a track designed by invisible architects. But what if you stopped, just for a moment, and looked not at the next hurdle, but down at your own feet? What if you asked, not how can I run faster, but why am I running at all? What is that cold, hollow feeling that even our most glittering victories cannot warm? It feels like a personal failure, a unique flaw in your character. But what if it's the exact opposite? What if that emptiness is not a sign of your failure, but the first, crucial sign of your awakening? What if it is the most honest part of you, finally breaking through the noise, trying to tell you that you are running towards a mirage, and you are running from a ghost? The ghost is not success. The ghost is what we believe will happen if we don't succeed. We are not chasing achievement. We are running from a terrifying, ancient, and deeply human fear. We have been taught to outsource our self-worth to a world of external validation, to build our identity on the shifting sands of accomplishment, because the alternative, to look inward, to define ourselves from within, seems like a terrifying leap into the unknown. We would rather endure the exhaustion of the endless race than face the silence that waits for us if we ever dare to stop. This is the great, unspoken question that haunts our modern existence. We are the most prosperous generation in history, yet we are drowning in a quiet epidemic of anxiety, depression, and a profound sense of existential disorientation. We have optimized our lives for performance but forgotten to ask, performance for what? This is the central paradox of our age. We have everything we were told to want, and yet we feel we are missing the one thing we truly need. The chase itself has become the cage. The map you were given is not wrong. It is a decoy. It leads to a destination that does not contain what you are truly seeking. To understand why, we must venture into the deepest recesses of the human psyche, into the philosophical underpinnings of our society, and confront the hidden problem that fuels this relentless and ultimately futile pursuit. The emptiness you feel is not a void. It is a footprint. It is the shape of something that is missing. And to understand the ghost we are running from, we must first understand what was taken, what was never given, or what we were convinced to surrender. The engine of this endless chase is not ambition. It is a profound, primordial anxiety. It is the terror of being nothing, of being worthless, of being invisible, expendable, and ultimately, unlovable. From the moment we are born, we are immersed in a system that equates human value with tangible output. Your grades define your intelligence, your salary defines your competence, your job title defines your status, your possessions define your taste. We are taught, with relentless consistency, that we are what we produce and what we own. Our essence is outsourced. Our identity becomes a contingent thing, a variable dependent on external validation. This is what the French existentialist Jean-Paul Sartre identified as the human tendency toward bad faith, mauvaise foi, the act of lying to ourselves to escape the terrifying anxiety of absolute freedom. We willingly pretend we are not free. We choose to see ourselves as objects, as a waiter or a CEO or a failure, because to fully embrace our radical freedom, the fact that we are nothing but what we make of ourselves, is to confront a dizzying abyss of possibility with no pre-written script. It is far easier, far less terrifying to frantically follow a culturally approved script, even a miserable one, than to stare into that abyss and write our own. The chase for success is the script we are given. It is a divinely detailed distraction from the existential vertigo of our own freedom. But the roots go deeper than social conditioning, into the very architecture of the psyche. Carl Jung saw this not as a social error, but as a fundamental spiritual crisis. He argued that the modern human has become alienated from their own self. We are born whole, but we are fractured. We are taught to disown the messy, dark, unacceptable parts of ourselves, the laziness, the rage, the vulnerability, the creative impulses that don't pay bills, in order to construct a persona. The persona is the mask we wear for society. It is the polished, acceptable, high-achieving avatar. We pour all our energy into burnishing this mask, making it shinier and more impressive, hoping its gleam will be enough to convince others and eventually ourselves that the mask is who we truly are. But the disowned parts do not vanish. They form the shadow, a repressed, unconscious counterpart to the persona, and the entire frantic project of success is often a desperate, unconscious attempt to outrun this shadow. We think if we can become successful enough, we will finally be beyond reproach, beyond the reach of our own hidden shame and self-doubt. We build a glittering citadel of achievement, not to live in its halls, but to keep the monsters we've locked in the basement from ever getting out. The problem is the citadel is built on top of the basement. You can never leave. The higher you build the walls, the deeper and darker the basement becomes. This is the cruel hidden trap. The system offers you a deal. Surrender your authentic, messy, undefined self, and we will give you a clear metric for worth. A ladder to climb, a race to run. It offers a substitute, external validation, for the one thing we truly crave. An internal, unshakable sense of self-worth that is not contingent on anything we do. We trade the profound, challenging journey of self-discovery for the superficial, certain path of social approval. We trade being for having. The philosophers of the last century saw this coming. Aldous Huxley's Brave New World wasn't a prophecy of punishment but of seduction. We are not controlled through pain but through pleasure, through the promise of ease, comfort, and validation. We are distracted by an endless stream of soma, in our case the soma of consumerism, of status updates, of viral fame, of next quarter earnings. We are pacified by our own pursuit of happiness, a pursuit carefully channeled into avenues that serve the system's need for stable, productive consuming entities, rather than fulfilled, conscious, sovereign individuals. So the ghost takes shape. It is not one thing, but a compound specter. It is the fear of your own freedom. It is the shame of your own shadow. It is the terror of ontological insignificance, the fear that without a title, a trophy, or $1 million in the bank, you simply do not matter. The chase for success is the frantic incantation we perform every day to keep this composite ghost at bay. We run, not because we are greedy, but because we are terrified of what will happen if we stop. We are not running toward a finish line. We are running from the abyss of our own unexplored selves. But the abyss does not disappear when you run. It just grows wider, and the echoes of your footsteps grow louder until they begin to sound less like a race and more like a prison. This is not a philosophical abstraction. This is a neurological reality. This is a lived experience that shapes your days, your relationships, your body, and your mind. in ways so subtle you mistake them for the natural order of things. The consequences of this flight from the self are not waiting for you in some distant future. They are the very fabric of your present reality. Consider the neurological loop. Every time you achieve a goal, close a deal, get a promotion, receive praise, your brain delivers a hit of dopamine. This is the chemical of pursuit and reward, a vital part of our motivational system. But when you wire your entire sense of self-worth to this external validation, you effectively outsource your dopamine production to the world. You become a DUI addict and your drug is accomplishment. The hit is intense, but it is fleeting. And like any addict, you develop a tolerance. The promotion that would have thrilled you 5 years ago now feels like a bare minimum, a stepping stone to the next, bigger hit. This is why the finish line keeps moving. It's not the world moving it. It's your own brain, demanding a stronger dose to feel the same rush. You are on a hedonic treadmill, running faster and faster just to stay in the same emotional place, which is one step ahead of a crushing withdrawal, the withdrawal of insignificance. This addiction warps your perception of time itself. You begin to see your life as a series of milestones to be checked off, a linear progression toward a destination. The present moment, the only moment you ever actually live in, becomes a mere obstacle, an inconvenient stretch of time between you and your next hit of validation. You develop what psychologists call instrumental thinking, where every action, every conversation, every relationship is subconsciously evaluated for its utility in advancing your goals. That lunch with a friend isn't for connection, it's for networking. That hobby isn't for joy, it's for building a personal brand. That vacation isn't for rest, it's for Instagram content. You cease to experience life for its own sake and instead see it only as a means to an end. You are living in the future, and in doing so you are sacrificing your actual life for a phantom. This bleeds into your relationships, rendering them transactional. You surround yourself with people who reflect the persona you are trying to uphold. You befriend the influential, you network with the successful. You shy away from those who cannot aid your ascent or, worse, those who might see through the mask to the struggling human beneath. Love becomes conditional. You fear that if you were to stop achieving, you would become worthless and therefore unlovable. You project this same conditional framework onto others, believing they only value you for what you provide, not for who you are. This creates a deep, unspoken loneliness, a feeling of being perpetually on stage, performing for an audience whose approval you crave, but whose love you can never truly trust. And your body keeps the score. The constant low-grade anxiety of maintaining your persona, of outrunning your shadow, manifests as a symphony of stress. The elevated cortisol levels, the sleepless nights running over tomorrow's presentation, the tightness in your chest. Before a performance review, the simmering irritation when something threatens your sense of control. These are not separate ailments. They are the somatic symptoms of a civil war within the self. Your body is rebelling against the tyranny of the persona, against the relentless pressure of being something you are not. The burnout you experience is not just a professional setback, it is a physiological mutiny. It is your whole self, finally, refusing to participate in its own annihilation. On a societal scale, this internal crisis becomes a collective pathology. We create cultures of toxic positivity that dismiss pain and struggle as personal failures. We build economies that thrive on this insecurity, selling us solutions to problems they helped create, the luxury goods to signal our status, the wellness programs to manage our stress, the productivity apps to optimize our desperate chase. We vote for politicians who promise to protect our fragile sense of superiority and belonging. We become intolerant of failure in ourselves and in others because it holds up a mirror to the very void we are all running from. We see the homeless person, the bankrupt entrepreneur, the unaccomplished individual, and we look away not out of cruelty, but out of a suppressed visceral terror. They are living reminders of the fate we are sprinting to avoid. Our entire social structure becomes a collective agreement to never, ever talk about the basement, even as we all hear the scratching at the door. The most perverse consequence of all is that the chase itself creates the very thing we fear most. In our desperate flight from worthlessness, we make our worth contingent and therefore perpetually unstable. In our flight from being nothing, we become nothing but a collection of titles and trophies, a hollowed-out shell of a human being. In our flight from being unloved, we make ourselves unlovable, because we offer the world only a polished mask. And who can love a mask? The prison is not that you are failing to escape. The prison is that the running is the prison. You are not on a path to freedom. You are meticulously building your own cage with every frantic, exhausted step. But what if you dropped the hammer? What if you stopped building? The thought is terrifying because the ghost feels real. But to break free, you must turn and face it. You must realize that the only way out is not to run faster, but to stop, to turn around, and to walk, consciously and courageously, back into the darkness you've been fleeing your entire life. Though, rebellion does not begin with a grand world-altering gesture. It does not require you to quit your job, burn your possessions, and move to a mountain monastery. Those are just new races, new scripts, new forms of running. The true rebellion is far more radical, far more subtle, and infinitely more terrifying. It is an internal insurrection. It is the quiet, deliberate act of stopping, of turning around, of looking directly into the eyes of the ghost you have spent a lifetime fleeing and asking, "What are you?" This is the essence of what Viktor Frankl, the psychiatrist and Holocaust survivor, called the last of the human freedoms. To choose one's attitude in any given set of circumstances, to choose one's own way. In the midst of unimaginable external horror, Frankl realized that the Nazis could control everything about him, his body, his environment, his labor, but they could not control his mind's response to his suffering. They could not stop him from finding meaning in it. This is the fundamental shift. From a life driven by the pursuit of pleasure and the avoidance of pain, a life Freud might call the pleasure principle, to a life driven by the will to meaning. Your rebellion begins here. It starts with the radical acceptance that the map you were given is a fraud, that the destination of enough does not exist, that the chase itself is the trap. This acceptance is not a moment of defeat. It is the moment of your liberation. It is the first time you stop blaming yourself for not running fast enough and start questioning the validity of the race itself. The first practical act of war is to intentionally court the very feeling you've been avoiding. You must practice being without doing. This is not meditation as a productivity tool to make you a better CEO. This is meditation as a radical act of existential defiance. Sit in a room, alone, with no distractions, for 10 minutes. Set a timer. Do nothing. Do not seek a feeling. Do not try to achieve a state of calm. Simply be. You will immediately feel the terror rise. The itch to check your phone, to make a list, to do something productive will be overwhelming. This anxiety is the ghost. It is the withdrawal symptom from your addiction to external validation. By sitting with it, by not reacting, you are not failing. You are succeeding at the only task that matters. You are proving to yourself, at a neurological level, that you can face this feeling and it will not destroy you. You are detoxifying your own worth from the drug of accomplishment. The second act is to consciously reconnect with your shadow, as Jung termed it. This is the work of re-owning the disowned parts of yourself. When you feel a surge of envy, instead of suppressing it as bad, get curious. What does this envy tell me about what I truly desire? When you feel lazy and uninspired, instead of whipping yourself with shame, ask, is this laziness or is it my soul's refusal to participate in a meaningless task? Your negative emotions are not enemies to be eliminated. They are messengers from your authentic self, trying to point you back toward your own truth. The goal is not to become a perfectly positive, high-achieving machine. The goal is to become whole, and wholeness requires embracing the dark with the light. This leads to the third and most counterintuitive shift. You must practice valuing being over seeming. This is a rebellion against the persona. For one day, make choices based not on how they will appear to others, but on how they feel to you. Wear the comfortable clothes, not the impressive ones. Admit you don't know the answer in a meeting. Talk about a failure you learned from, not just a success you achieved. Each time you do this, you are withdrawing your energy from the mask and reinvesting it in the substance beneath. You are sending a powerful message to your deepest self. I see you. I value you, regardless of your utility to the world. This is not a path to becoming less effective in the world. It is the path to becoming powerful in the only way that matters. The person who is not addicted to validation is unmanipulable. They cannot be threatened with shame or bribed with status. They work from a place of genuine interest and purpose, not from a place of fear. Their energy is no longer siphoned off into maintaining a fiction. This makes them more focused, more creative, and ironically, often more successful by the world's standards, but now that success is a byproduct, not the goal. It is an expression of their purpose, not a substitute for it. History's greatest rebels and innovators understood this. They were not chasing approval. They were following an inner compass that often put them in direct opposition to the world. They had turned to face their own abyss and found not a monster, but a source of unimaginable strength. As the philosopher Friedrich Nietzsche, who knew a thing or two about staring into voids, famously wrote, "Whoever fights monsters should see to it that in the process he does not become a monster. And if you gaze long enough into an abyss, the abyss will gaze back into you." The rebellion is realizing that the abyss gazing back is not a threat. It is your own reflection, finally seen without flinching. It is the raw, unfiltered potential of your own freedom. The rebellion is not about destroying the system. It is about making it irrelevant to your sense of self. It is about building an internal citadel of meaning so strong that the winds of praise or criticism cannot shake it. You stop being a weather vane, spinning frantically in the wind of external opinion, and you become a compass, calibrated to your own true north. The ghost begins to fade not because you've outrun it, but because you've turned on the light. And in that light you see it for what it always was. Not a monster, but a forgotten, frightened part of yourself, waiting all this time to be welcomed home. The ultimate truth, the final, most powerful realization. There is a final, staggering revelation waiting for you at the end of this inward journey. It is the truth that recontextualizes everything. You have spent a lifetime running from a ghost, believing it to be the specter of your own inadequacy, your own nothingness. You have fought it, fled from it, and tried to build fortresses against it. But the ultimate truth is this: the void you feared is not your enemy. It is the source of your greatest power. It is not a hollow emptiness to be filled, but a fertile silence from which all authentic creation springs. The abyss is freedom itself. This is the profound paradox at the heart of existence. We are, in the most fundamental sense, nothing. We are not born with a preordained purpose, a fixed identity, or an immutable essence. As Sartre argued, our existence precedes our essence. We are thrown into the world, and it is our terrifying and magnificent responsibility to create who we are. That feeling of groundlessness, that existential anxiety you've been medicating with achievement, is the dizzying sensation of your own radical freedom. You were trying to outrun the very thing that makes you human. You were trying to trade the awesome responsibility of defining yourself for the comfortable prison of a predefined role. The great spiritual and philosophical traditions have pointed to this truth for millennia, often through paradox. Buddhist teachings on sunyata, often translated as emptiness, do not describe a nihilistic void, but a state of pure potentiality, free from fixed concepts and inherent existence. It is the clarity of a sky without clouds, the silence that allows a single note of music to be heard. The Christian mystic Meister Eckhart wrote of the soul's need to become free and empty, a vessel through which God's will could flow. The existentialists framed it as the burden and glory of creating our own values in a universe devoid of inherent meaning. You were trying to fill this creative void with trophies, when its very nature is to remain open, to be the womb from which your authentic life is born. The silence you feared is not an absence of sound. It is the condition for hearing your own true voice for the first time. This changes everything. The question is no longer, how do I become successful? The question becomes, what will I create with my freedom? The energy you once poured into, maintaining a persona, that exhausting, endless performance is now available for genuine creation. This is the shift from the reactive life, where you are a pinball bouncing between societal demands and primal fears, to the creative life, where you are the artist of your own existence. Your worth was never something to be earned. It is your birthright. It is antecedent to any action. It is the simple, unassailable fact of your being. You are valuable not because you produce, but because you are. A tree has value not for its lumber, but for its treeness, for its photosynthesis, its shade, its role in the ecosystem, its silent, steadfast being. You have value not for your output, but for your consciousness, your capacity for love, your unique perspective, your laughter, your resilience, your mere presence in the tapestry of life. You are a verb, not a noun, a process, not a product, a moment of the universe becoming conscious of itself, and no amount of external validation could ever add to or subtract from the miraculousness of that fact. This is the final, most powerful realization. The chase was never about success. It was a misplaced search for being. You were looking for yourself in the applause of others, in the shimmer of gold, in the carved letters of a title, hoping to find a solid, definable thing you could point to and say, "This is me." But you are not a thing. You are a story in the process of being told. You are a question that life is asking itself, and the answer is not a destination, but the living of your days with ever-deepening authenticity, courage, and compassion. So let the race end here. Let the ghost dissolve into the nothingness from which it came. There is no monster in the basement. There is only a forgotten door, and on the other side, the vast open sky of your own potential. The world will continue to hum its seductive tune of more, more, more. You will hear it, but it will sound distant, like traffic noise from a secluded forest. You are no longer a prisoner of that rhythm. Your life is no longer a problem to be solved by achievement, but a mystery to be lived with curiosity, a work of art to be sculpted from the raw material of your moments. You are free. Now what will you create?